No, no, we are just going live. I'm just going to the YouTube connectivity. Okay, you're ready.
So good evening, my dear members of the audience. It's so heartening to see this lovely response over the past 3 days. This has been a journey and we all have been co-travelers, I feel like. And I can almost feel a palpable shift in our awareness. Each session took something forward, took us to a higher level of understanding, more depth in whatever subject you were listening to. So very, very heartful welcome to all of you who have joined us today. We have some luminaries from the field of education this evening, and I'm so happy to introduce them to you. I take great pleasure in introducing Mrs. Gauri Ishwaran. I'd like to, if her profile could be showed, I'd show on the screen. I'd be very, very privileged to introduce her. So yes, Mrs. Gauri Ishwaran is the advisor of the Shiv Nadar Foundation, and she's the vice chairman of the Global Education and Leadership Foundation. She's a postgraduate in English literature, and she has a very vast body of work. It's really not possible to present all she's done in this one slide. We'll try our best. So she has so many years of teaching experience at St. Michael's School, Patna Springdale School, Delhi Public School. She's the founder principal of Sanskriti School. She's the CEO of the Global Education and Leadership Foundation, a member of the Governing Council of the Vedika Scholars Program for Women, an educational initiative of the Vedika Foundation and Sri Aurobindo Center for Arts and Communication. And as for her awards and achievements, the Government of India awarded her the fourth highest civilian honor of the Padma Shri in 2004 for her contributions to the Indian educational sector. Gauri ma'am, we are so honored that you're with us this evening. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Next, I would like to introduce Dr. Gargi Mitra. She's the head of the Symbiosis School Central Directorate. She has a PhD in mind mapping, which is a concept in educational psychology. She has about 17 years teaching experience in various senior leadership roles in quite a few institutions. And currently she heads the Symbiosis School Central Directorate, which is a centralized body of symbiosis that ensures quality and equity of practices across all the symbiosis schools in Pune, Nashik, and Harari, which is a small village 100 kilometers from Kolhapur, and spread across different boards, IB, CBSE, and the state board. Gargi ma'am will be joining us shortly, but I thought I'll just introduce you all to her at this appropriate time. I'd now like to introduce Dr. Bhavani Shankar. He's the head of the school, Lalaji Memorial Omega International School, Chennai. He has a doctoral degree and a postdoctoral doctoral degrees from Madras, and the postdoctoral, I think he has two of them from the US, from the University of South Carolina. He has 18 years in the field of education, 18 years experience in the field of education. His skills are integrating policies of various education boards, CBSE, CIE, IB, and NIOS, with the institutional demands and implementing the same across educational verticals. And he also, like Gauri ma'am, there's so many awards and achievements, I could not fit it in here, but I've mentioned too, he's the recipient of the BARD USDA Postdoctoral Research Associateship, and he's the recipient of the Research Associateship Award, CSIR, Government of India for Postdoctoral Research. Welcome, Bhavani sir. We're so happy you joined us today. I'd now like to introduce Mr. Gyaneshwar Sareen, he was there for the inaugural session as well. Gyan sir is a postgraduate from the Delhi University. He has a rich experience in working with the corporate sector as well as the non-profit sector. He has 21 years of experience at the Varun Shipping Group, heading the corporate liaison and corporate affairs. He was in the hospitality business and corporate social responsibility initiatives of the company. He served as a member of the State Wildlife Advisory Board of Uttarakhand. And his skills, he mentions that he's a trainer or practitioner of heartfulness meditation, and his hobbies include meditation. I'm so happy to have such a wonderful panel with us today, this evening, for our valedictory session. A very warm welcome to all of you. So, on behalf of the Heartfulness Education Trust, it is my privilege to welcome all of you. Now, I think let's interact a bit with the audience. We have been using Menti throughout these 3 days. And so now you all are experts at doing a Menti poll, isn't it? So, if we could have the Menti question, yes. So, I'd like to ask everyone here, what has been your experience of this conference so far? Those who have attended with us from the day one can mention. Those who are joining us for the first time, maybe you can say so far, how are you finding it? It'll be very interesting for us to know how what has been your experience and how are you viewing this conference experience so far. So you will have to go to www.menti.com in your browser, whether it's Chrome or Firefox or whatever it be. And once you go to the website, you will type this code, which is 2794427. I'll repeat 2794427. And please let me know in one word or two words, how have you found this conference so far? How are you feeling about it? What is your overall experience? Do share. I'm eagerly awaiting to know how you have found it. Many of us have been really looking forward to this and wanting to interact with all of you. So now we are curious to know how you are feeling. Okay, it is very informative. Uh, the topics were well explained. It is wonderful. Someone said amazing. Someone said we've been inspired. It was value for time. Oh God, that's really nice. Thank you for saying that. And it was enlightening. There were great insights, enriching and informative. It was great. Wow, this is good. This is very encouraging for us all who have been working for this conference for a while now. It was thought provoking and what an eye opener, all right. And wonderful seems to be a very popular word. Informative, excellent, awesome. Okay, that's very, very encouraging for us, dear audience. Thank you so much for showing us this love. It was superb. Many people are saying a lot of good things about it. I'm really so happy to read this. I'm sure some people are mentioning in the chat as well. Someone said there's no words, it is excellent. So Apan Kumar sir is saying it's remarkably benefited through the session how to implement value-based education. Shamala ma'am is saying it was investigative and explorative. That's very interesting use of words. Ruma Singh ma'am is saying very informative. Madhuri Jadhav is saying it was an outstanding workshop. Um, Someone said it was excellent and informative. Thank you so much for this wonderful feedback. It's very encouraging for us. And we are so touched that you have been with us over this. This is a weekend, it's a holiday time, but still you all have given your precious time to be with us. I really hope that you have gained in the same measure or much, much more also. So thank you so much, dear audience, for being with us and giving me this wonderful feedback. All of us are so encouraged by this. Thank you very, very much. If you all want to continue voting, you can do that. We'll pull the screen, this slide off the screen, but probably you can continue to give your feedback if you would like to. Yes. So thank you so much for your warm and heartfelt responses. This is so encouraging. We too had a wonderful time interacting with all of you over the past 3 days. It was truly a rewarding experience. So, as you all know, this is our valedictory session, and it's surely going to be an evening to remember. I'd like to share the flow of the program. The program will begin with the keynote address by Ms. Gauri Ishwaran. After that, we'll have a panel discussion. Then we will conclude with a peaceful session of heartfulness meditation. So let us now commence the program. I invite Gauri ma'am to please come and give us the keynote address on this subject about which she's so passionate. Over to you, Gauri ma'am. Ma'am, you'll have to unmute yourself. No.
Is that okay now? Anyway, congratulations on all the wonderful feedback that you have got, and thank you for inviting me. I'd like to start today's talk by quoting from something that OECD in Europe has put into their paper on education. They say that the schools of tomorrow and the schools of today have to prepare students for jobs that have not yet been created, technologies that have not yet been invented, and problems that we don't know will arise. So the 21st century yawns in front of us with many uncertainties. So as teachers, what will be our role in dealing with this? How are we going to prepare our children for this uncertain future? So when we look at this and we talk of the role of the teacher, uh, there has to be a change in the attitude and approach of the teachers, definitely. But it comes in two parts. One is, what are the skills that the children will need for this uncertain future? And then the teaching, especially the methodology, will have to match with that. The both will go hand in hand. And underpinning all that, you have the value system. So teachers have to realize that no longer are we the arbitrators of all knowledge. We are now moving into a phase where we need to become facilitators and mentors and forget about focusing only on content and on grades, because what happens now is it's all about what do you learn in physics, what do you learn in chemistry, how much have you got a 99%, which college will you get into. Now this is not going to work in the years to come. So as teachers, we need to move our focus from there. That is not going to be our goal anymore. But what do we do? So teachers then ask me, okay ma'am, you say we don't do that, but what do we do? See, here we have to identify, in an uncertain future, what are the skills do you think that the children will need? See, they need, most important is communication skills, because whether we like it or not, it's a globalized world. Many countries are looking inward, but it's not going to work because it is a globalized world. Secondly, they have to learn to collaborate. Otherwise, how are you going to succeed? Even more important, they have to set goals for themselves. Now, you don't start a strategy thinking, oh, this is very nice and it will be good for the kids. You have to think, what's the outcome of that strategy? So the children also have to think, what is the goal? What is it that they want to achieve? And to achieve all this, they need self confidence. They need to have the courage to take risks. They need, they need to know how to deal with failures. So these are the qualities, these are the skills that the children need. And we as teachers need to focus on that. And if we don't focus, then we'll become obsolete. So the teachers have to adapt to the changing times. And remember that technology is working so far. It's become, with the pandemic, the technology part has come on us teachers like a tsunami. I mean, we were always talking about technology, it's good, bad, what do we do? But here it's landed on us, whether we liked it or not. And most teachers have been able to rise to the occasion. But it is a completely different world that we are moving into. And when we come back to school, whenever the pandemic allows us to, it's never going to be the same. Technology will also play a very major role. But this is where the teachers will play a very critical role, because with so much information available, the students need to be guided. How do you sift the right kind of information from misinformation? How do you analyze what the media is telling you, especially with the social media playing such a major role? How do you do research? These are the qualities that the children will need. And we as teachers need to adapt ourselves to that and focus on helping these children to manage. And how do you do that? One thing is, children must learn to validate information, to synthesize that information. How do they leverage it? How do they communicate it? How do they collaborate on those information? These are the things where the teachers will play a very pivotal role in guiding the students. But don't think everything has changed. The basic quality and temperament of a teacher can never change, because you still have to love children. Because unless you love children, you will never make a good teacher. And so, therefore, to be a warm person, to be accessible, to be enthusiastic, to be caring, to motivate, to be engaging, these qualities are not going to change. This has to be the integral part of you as a human being, as a teacher. You need to use these qualities and adapt to the needs of the time and help the children pick up those attitudes which will help them to survive in the 21st century. But when we talk of all these skills, they have to be underpinned with values. Whatever innovation, for example, when we talk about problem solving, children have to now be adept at problem solving, at critical thinking, to be curious, to explore. But I mentioned goal setting. Now, what kind of goal should they look at? It should be what will help others. Otherwise it's a double-edged sword. Science and innovation can give you um, technology that helps the poorest of the poor, and it can also give you bombs. So we have to guide our students that all their knowledge that they gain, all the innovation they do, should have that target and goal of how will it benefit others. Because we have huge problems facing the world. And if we want our young children to become the right kind of citizens of the world, they need empathy. And that is where collaboration is very important. Because how do you collaborate? If you collaborate, you need to care, you need to share, you need to trust, you need integrity. So all our time honored values will come back again. And I think this pandemic has given us an opportunity to bring those values back center stage. In the past years, the past decades, we've been so interested in getting grades that we have completely ignored the growth of the human mind. Our curriculum does not focus enough on values and your own internal growth and your own awareness of yourself. And this pandemic gives us that opportunity in recreating the curriculum, making it more holistic, and focusing on the human being and individual rather than only on the content. And I think that is one of the most important lessons that we learned today. I don't want to go on too much about values. You've got Ganeshwar sir there, who will, I think, speak with even more emphasis on the importance of values. I always tell my students that values is something that gives you peace at heart, because values help you to do the right thing, to make the right choices in life. And if you make the right choices and if you do the right thing, you automatically get joy in what you are doing. You see, unless we help our kids to choose careers that gives them fulfillment, that makes them feel happy and makes them fulfills their passion, we're not really helping them. So many children want to become engineers, but Why? Because everybody is becoming an engineer. But that's not really the right way of making a choice. And therefore, teachers as mentors and as facilitators will play a very critical role in the times to come. And if we don't play that role, then we are not being true to our profession. To be a teacher, you're very lucky because you have the opportunity to touch so many lives, and we should not misuse that opportunity. And I think my time is ending, so I'll end with a quotation from Mother Teresa. She says, when you are a teacher, you will teach your students to fly, but they will not fly your flight. You will teach them to dream, but they will not dream your dream. You will teach them to live, but they will not live your life. Nevertheless, in every flight, in every dream, the print of the way you taught them will always remain. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gauri ma'am, for those words that have come from years of experience and that beautiful quote at the end, that what we are doing now and preparing the students for a future we don't know about, but trying our best to envision what it will be like and prepare them now for what they have to face later. And at the points of teacher as a facilitator and as a mentor, the changing role of the teacher, that was very well taken. I think all of us need to take note of that and create that shift in how we are supposed to do. But some things remain the same. Some things are universal, like the values such as compassion, love, accessibility of a teacher. That will have to continue the way it is. That need not change. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this really beautiful talk. Maybe will the audience, would the audience like to ask anything? Maybe you can put it in the chat box if you have some comments about Gauri ma'am's talk, or you would like to ask her something. Everyone has loved the quote a lot, ma'am, by Mother Teresa.
It's one of
Everyone is saying that it was a wonderful.
it's one of my favorite.
The one that about Mother Teresa.
Yes.
Yes, it's really lovely and puts things in perspective for us also. That we don't have to judge them by our own standards of what we are experiencing now. Okay. I think everyone is so clear and so impressed with whatever you have said. Thank you so much, ma'am. And I'm sure this is going to trigger the visionary in all of us as educators, as parents, as stakeholders in school education, and try and make that shift that we need so that we can prepare our children for tomorrow. So let's have one Menti question again with the audience. Because now over the past 3 days, we've been mentioning this word so much: values, education, value-based education. And maybe some of us were already into it. Maybe some of us really didn't pay that much attention to it. But over these past 2 days, I'm sure you must have developed some definition of this word in your mind. So would you like to share with us? How will you define the word values? So it can be a sentence. It need not be one word, of course. What do you think the word values means in value-based education? Maybe it's a little tricky question. Take your time. Okay, someone is saying life skills. Again, you'll have to go, if you're just joining us, please go to www.menti.com and type in the code 2794427, and whatever question pops up, do answer it here. So somebody says life skills, someone says all-round development. Okay, nice. Someone says a lifestyle change. Okay, that's very interesting. Changing our lifestyle. Someone says acceptance. Um, Anything else? Any other values should help students in leading an ethical lifestyle in the unethical world using heartful communication as a tool. That's really amazing. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Values make a child humble and noble. Okay, very nice. Nice. Anyone wants to share anything else? What do you think the word values means in value education? Because I was talking to some youngsters and they say, you keep saying value education. What do you mean by this word value? You know? So I want to know what everyone here thinks about it. Value is the right purpose of anything we do benefiting all. Life skills, empathy, love, gratitude, peace and happiness. A heartful teacher, the breath of life. Wow. Value is the right purpose of anything we do benefiting all. It is a sustainable thinking for sustainable living. Life skills are being learned. Values make a child a universal citizen. Very nice. Values are the soul of our education. Wonderful. Very nice. It's about gratitude, about being responsible. The way we live shows what our values are. Very nice. Being true to ourselves, life skills, empathy, anything which makes our life better in any possible way. That's a very interesting definition. Thank you for that. And it makes you connect with the higher source always. Okay, so when we are connected with the higher source, the values you will exhibit will be the positive ones. Very nice. Values are everything. Someone says it will make a joyful classroom. Very nice. Our purpose in life and how we will live life, that's what is meant by values. A really deep thinking, dear audience. Values make the child walk the correct path of life. Beautiful. It's a precious tool which we need to live in the 21st century. Absolutely. So thank you so much for this. I'm really moved to see how deeply we all are thinking about this topic. It means synchronizing heart and brain with love, love and love. How nice. Very nice. So it's a holistic development. Thank you so much, the audience members. These are very nice definitions you have shared with us. Very grateful. If some of you all want to have not yet answered and would like to still continue, we'll probably have this with the record so you can continue answering. Um, I think we'll move on with the program now. Yes. So as I said, some of the kids were talking to me and they said, well, what do you mean by this values you keep saying? So, I said, let me look at the dictionary meaning. So the dictionary meaning is principles that help you decide what is right and wrong and how to act in various situations. So obviously an education where we are teaching the child to discriminate, we can say that is a value education, but it's much more than that, of course. Now, a bit on the word vision, because today's topic is values and vision, right? So, vision without action is merely a dream, and action without vision just passes the time. But vision with action can change the world. So, that's about vision and values. And as today's topic is values and vision, I thought it was good to get the basic meaning of these two words here. I would like to know if Gargi ma'am has joined us yet. Yeah, I think she's probably on her way. So I'd like to now ask Gauri ma'am this question. So I came across a lovely quote that vision is a picture of the future that produces passion. Ma'am, you're an educationist with 30 years of experience behind you, and you're so passionate about promoting the right way to nurture young minds. So, what do you think the next generation would be like, and what would be their needs, which the education system would be expected to fulfill?
See, if you're looking at the vision of the future, it's a very murky vision in the sense we really don't know what it's going to be like. But one thing I think for me and for many people may still be there, we want our kids, in whatever be the situation, to be good human beings. Good human beings, but not risk cover. They should be willing to take risks, and then they should also be ready to face failure. These are two very important qualities, because when you're looking at an uncertain future, you will try many times and you may fail, but that should not put you back. Every failure is a stepping stone to success. That's how you need to look at it. And you also need to take risks, because it's going to be the age of entrepreneurs. So unless you're willing to take risks, you don't know how it's going to turn out. The vision also looks at young people, good human beings, not risk averse, who are innovative and creative. In fact, the successful people in the future are going to be those who are innovative and creative. And it's not going to be grades. People are not going to look at whether you are an A plus or A plus plus. They're going to look at what are the ideas that you bring to the table. What is it that you can think which is different? What is it that you can create which will make things better in whichever sphere it may be? So that is, but all this underpinned with values, and that's good human beings. People want good for others, not to create bombs and weapons of mass destruction and things like that. So that's the kind of vision that we need to have when we run a school or we create a curriculum. And luckily, I think our the new NEP that's come out does focus on holistic education, which many of your participants have mentioned also. So does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. That the future generation, you expect that their needs would be that they learn how to be innovative, creative, learn how to accept failure, learn how to take calculated risks, and
And they
think.
also so now to achieve all this, they need to have critical thinking skills, and they need to be good at problem solving. And again, communication is going to be critical. All this actually is like a
Yeah.
bundle of skills, but the whole thing like rests on a tray or on a base of values.
Yes. Yes.
Values is what will actually determine what you are going to do and how you are going to do it. So values will have to be, and as I mentioned earlier in my address, this is an ideal opportunity for us to bring values back center stage in the world. It's got pushed under the table. It's time for us to bring it out.
Yes.
And that's the only hope for the world. Unless we learn to care, share, have empathy, how will the world move forward? It won't be able to move forward.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So, an age of innovators with so many and entrepreneurs with all this bundle of skills, but with the foundation of solid values. They have to,
Yes.
above anything else, they need to be good human beings. And then these skills will be applied for the good of everyone and not
And
for
so,
destruction.
and they need to also understand themselves and their relationship to the outer world. And this, I think, your Mr. Gyaneshwar will be able to throw more light on it. But then you really become comfortable with yourself when you know yourself, and then you analyze your relationship with the outer world.
Right. Right. Thank you, ma'am. That really makes a lot of sense, whatever you're saying, and you have so tactfully, extrapolated what's going to be happening in the future, and it actually really fits. And now that we have that picture, we can think what to do about it. So now I would like to ask Dr. Bhavani Shankar the next question. So there's a very apt saying by Malcolm X that education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Now, as Gauri ma'am has painted such an accurate picture of what needs will be there of the future generation. So I would like to ask you, sir, that in order to manifest this vision into reality or to prepare these students for these kind of skills, what changes do we need to make to our current system, and what will be the obstacles in our path right now? Could you throw some light upon this, sir?
Thank you so very much, Anjali. And see, a lot of it has been spoken by Gauriji. And it is very interesting that when racial discrimination was driving the resistance to acceptance, I think Malcolm Little directed this particular sentiment possibly to trigger self-belief and resilience among the colored Americans. So it was again contextual. Let us look at the overall purpose of it perceived by many people. I would add on to this purpose to set the tempo for that particular question. To nurture the young with the kind of attributes and skills they need to develop in an orderly, sequential way into good members of a society would possibly have been the primary purpose. But in defining the society, what we have done is we have contextualized the purpose to suit the requirements of the society that we have conceived are currently in. It is very interesting if you note that Dewey, he described that the environment of education is possibly an outgrowth of the needs of the society in which it exists. The broader purpose, I would say, includes all of them, possibly goes beyond, for it seeks to encompass the dimensions of human experience. So you cannot encapsulate the purpose of education, but I would say in a holistic way, it seeks to encompass all dimensions of human experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think the bad and the ugly would be better teachers than the good experiences. So having said that, I would go on and say that for us to see this particular change, so we already understand that we are in this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. And therefore, to seek the teachers to embrace this change, because these are going to be the facilitators, the mentors, the coaches. So as Gauriji said, so moving on from the wearing the teacher jacket to wearing the coaches or the mentors or the facilitators jacket. So we need to train the teachers to embrace this change, because these are the people that are going to drive the education forward. And we need to simultaneously make the children change ready. We do not know, as Gauriji pointed out, this is very interesting because I'm just reinforcing the statements that she has already made. So we are indeed in this VUCA world, and I would say the aspects like adaptability, resilience, tolerance, forbearance, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, information literacy, media literacy, technology literacy, flexibility, leadership skills, initiative, risk-taking, innovative approaches, entrepreneurial approaches, all of this, I would say, collectively need to be taken in with the children. So I would say this is not a particularly a year-long approach. This is a whole institution approach to building these skills. So sadly, we have one size fits all. I would say that we would need to move more towards personalized learning. So how about moving from pedagogical approaches to pedagogical approaches where the choices are determined by the children based on their interest and predispositions, and teachers modulate these interests and predispositions to move the children into the path of learning. So I would say that would be a very interesting take for a change. And more importantly, I would say, see, the hierarchical approach to subjects. Let's say that my son studies in this particular school, in this particular group, because he needs to crack this IIT JEE or the NEET examination at a particular point in time. So it just makes them phenomenal problem solvers. So the load on the scholastic achievements seem to be overweighing all the rest of it. I would say that we need to be also looking at the affector and the psychomotor domains, and maybe start loading in the importance of nurturing the psychosocial domains in education. Unfortunately, not say many of us seek to do it, because that's one thing that seeks to relate to the inner self, permits the teachers and the students to implode and reflect and to connect with their hearts better. I would say the fact that we belong to a larger community and we are social animals, this particular aspect needs to be very, very critical in the child's learning. And this change I would look for. So in bringing about a magical transformation in the children. So another thing that worries me always is whether we are doing our assessments right. So see, whether we are seeking to look at very, very personal outcomes for the children. It can't be set on a template again, one size fits all. So we need to start giving proper feedback on these assessments, and these assessments need to be specifically designed to measure certain outcomes, but not say what is encapsulated in the textbooks. I would say we will have to look at the higher order, say, approaches to questioning and receiving answers. And this simply cannot be, say, a pen on paper test. So it needs to be a multiple format that seeks to understand the children's learning in multiple ways. So I would definitely put all of this together in trying to consider changes. So did I make sense?
Yes,
Anjali?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that was very interesting that I think some of the basic changes that you are saying need to be made are basically it has to be a whole institutional approach, but individual interest-based learning, that's one shift we need to make. I think that's what you meant. Move away from the pedagogical approach and move to individual interest-based learning. We need to make major changes in our affector and psychomotor domains, domain of learning. That's, I think, another thing you said. And our mode of assessments also. How are we assessing? Basically, moving away from a one size fits all kind of solution that we are doing right now, and trying to tailor it and really assessing the students for what they know, and not insisting on a certain modality of assessment. I think that's probably these are
Yeah,
the really important
I,
changes that you mentioned.
so Anjali, I would like to add on see the resistance to the change. So your pesky inner demons, right? So these are the ones that actually resist this change. And
Right.
I would say that the more baggage of learning that we have from the past, so the greater would be the task of unburdening ourselves with this earlier learning. Maybe we need to discard most of what we have already learned. We need to pick up something new. So the cycle of learning, unlearning, relearning. So this moves on to affect this particular change. And unless I start believing in them and then see making sure that I am a good role model to students, so maybe see this transformation in them will still remain a dream. I think we need to walk the talk and walk the walk. So,
Yes.
I guess I would say as educators, we have an enormous responsibility to say take the ownership for it. So national education policy is a plea to all the educators to make things happen. It's such a beautiful plea. So it's up to all of us to make this change. So thank you so very much, Anjali.
Thank you, sir. And also for highlighting that the onus of this change lies with us as educators. And once we step up to the role, we'll be able to really create this change. Thank you so much. We have Dr. Gargi Mitra with us here. Welcome, ma'am. I'm glad you could make
Thank
it
you.
tonight. So I think I'll immediately welcome you with a question itself. So, ma'am, my question is that we have been talking so much about vision and how it can be manifested into reality. But ultimately, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So, unless we've seen that it has happened, that will reinforce this concept more. So, can you share some real life examples where someone's vision, backed by his or her passionate efforts, actually shaped some dream into reality? Could you state some examples?
Thank you so much, Anjali ma'am. And I regret joining so late. Anyways, so yes, your question is really something out of the box, something very different as to compare to what we are discussing today. All the stalwarts I was listening to the last sir talking about his vision of national education policy. But if you ask me, frankly, Anjali, quite a few names come to me. Not one, not too many, in fact. But it especially reminds me of two legends whom I would really like to mention here. They are two men who have been born in two different centuries, born in two different worlds, but nevertheless, they have walked their talk. They are men who have contributed to two completely different causes, but both were connected to promoting education. Definitely. Now, since we are all from education and that's where our heart lies, I will not think of an example beyond that. But they are men who have converted their own values into a mission because of their strong conviction. And that is exactly, if I've understood your question correctly. So, the first name, I talk about someone who is not living at present, but a legend. Why a legend? Because especially for people like you, me, and many, many other women, the educated class of women, we cannot but forget the contribution that this man has in our lives. His name is, many of you will be familiar with, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. His actual title, though Vidyasagar, was conferred to him by the villagers due to his vastness of the knowledge that he had. But getting education in those times was a man's right, not a woman's privilege. So he was a person who was a thinker par excellence and a key contributor in the Indian Renaissance of the 19th century. Though he was actually known to be a social reformer, he particularly led reforms which were meant to uplift the status of women in our society. He looked deep into the root causes, first and foremost, that led to this pathetic condition of the women in those times. And it was long, long time back that he realized that if women had to gain respect in the society, then it was only and only through education. Only education could bring back that lost honor and stop the social evils against them. In fact, in his words, education is that priceless treasure of life. It was something that Pandit Vidyasagar had said. Yes, I agree that he had championed the social movement of uplifting the status of women, especially in Bengal. So, well, the question still remains, how did this vision turn into a reality for generations of women to come? So definitely it was not an easy walk. But as I said, he realized that very soon that society will not let these malpractices be thrown away so easily. He therefore, during his times, reached out to the British government who passed this Hindu Widow Remarriage Act. And this was a vision come to reality. And this came soon after the sati system was abolished by the government back then. So he was the one who fought against the child marriage, he fought against polygamy, and all these social evils as a social reformer, but ultimately to uplift his view, his vision that he had for the status of women. So again, the vision coming to reality, the point, I'm not leaving that, the point of vision coming to reality, though he had to face a lot of hardships and oppositions. I mean, if you read his stories, if there are multiple anecdotes that state how he has strived, he has struggled against the system to establish the first girls' school and many, many institutions only so that women can be empowered and only so that women can be uplifted. In fact, he started multiple institutions, and the best part of his schools here again was that he wanted the value system to be embedded, that also the Indian value system, something that has come back again in the light of National Education Policy 2020. The first school that he had established early 19th century had again spoke about how we can bring back the Indian culture and the value system such that these girls who are being educated will take it back to their respective families. So think he had thought about this 2 centuries back. That's what I'm trying to highlight here. And later on, that same school became the first women's college in Asia. That's the best part of it. And well, looking at the census report today and the literacy rate among women today, it will be very hard to imagine if it wouldn't have been for the contributions by not just people like Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, but Savitribai Phule, Mahatma Jyotirao Phule, Anandi Gopal Rao Joshi. So there are many names that come to my mind in this strongly dominated patriarchal system of society. Uh, well, there is a long way to go if I have to talk about how women need to still go ahead. But then this reminds me of one another name. I told you there'll be 2 people from 2 different centuries, and he is a living legend. So the second visionary about whom I'm going to talk is, that's the only name that comes to my mind as of now, is Dr. Shantarao Balwant Majumdar sir, the founder and president of Symbiosis. This is indeed an unbelievable but a true story of how a single man created an educational empire today that is synonymous with quality, just because he dared to dream. He had a vision. This year, I'm happy to share that this year Symbiosis has stepped into its 50th year of existence. And it was established in 1971, so we are celebrating the Golden Jubilee year. But the seed was sowed in 1971 that has today germinated into a beautiful tree that gives shelter and food to thousands and thousands of students and staff. But again, coming back to your question here, Anjali, he has always credited his value system for this. Always, in each speech of his, he has always mentioned that it is his strong value system that has become a part of his personality ever since his childhood. In fact, in Sir's word, if I have to say, humility is not a weakness. You can be polite and still get your work done. You can be persuasive without being aggressive. Such beautiful words. And in fact, these are the essential values of this institution and, in fact, any organization. Frankly speaking, Anjali, it's a blessing. It's an honor to meet him, talk to him, because the persona has a direct impact on you. His values touch your life. And when you come back after meeting him, these values also come back with you in your own life. So if you ask me about if you ask him about what he would tell to the present generation, again, it will echo the same question that you have asked me. He always mentions that it is passion, compassion, and innovation. These are the 3 essential pillars with which he has built Symbiosis. He has nurtured Symbiosis. And today, that vision of his in 1971 had become a reality. Yes, he is indeed a living legend and a person who has never given up on his simplicity. That's very important. You look at his life, he is the most simple human being you will come across. And yet, he thinks in abundance. His thoughts are limitless. So Symbiosis has been created by him especially for the international students. Yes, he wanted to give a home away from home to these students who, who actually did not get that support system back in Pune. This thought had come to him long back when he was a professor of botany at the Ferguson College, and he was also a rector of the boys hostel, when he had seen this girl who was passing on some packet to a boy's room, and when he found out, he realized that this boy was suffering from jaundice and this girl was just sharing some home cooked food, and that is when this seed had seeped in. And that is why the motto of Symbiosis is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, meaning the world is one family. So you can see how a small vision, a small incidence had translated, and today it has grown into a huge mega institution. It is important also here, I will love to share this with everybody, that Dr. Mazumdar has never ever compromised with his value system. Something which otherwise becomes very difficult for people like us, because whatsoever the reason may be, he has never compromised, be it financial, political, or personal. Today, Symbiosis is a globally recognized institution, a university of excellence, but somehow he has just never compromised. I don't know how, but things have paved his way, things have moved ahead for him. And what better example can I give you of a living legend who, just because of his passionate efforts, has shaped his vision into reality? See, there is no tried and tested way or rule that states how we can transform our values into a mission. If you ask me, no, I have no formula. Definitely, I do not have a formula. But yes, we need to blend it. I do understand that it is very challenging and maybe very difficult for people like us to adhere to our value system, especially when we are at a receiving end. Huh? That's very important. When we are being abused, when we are being discriminated, it's always value systems are up for us when it is about others. I will fight for other person. But when it is about me, it's very difficult to hold on to the value system. Very difficult. So if you ask me my life mantra, um, I have always believed in having faith in myself. And if I am not able to do great things in a great manner, I at least try to contribute in doing small things in a great manner. And that's how I have converted my values into my mission. Not that I'm doing something great, but I'm happy in contributing in the way I can. So that I think these are the two examples that just came to my mind because you wanted to know some real life examples. But yes, if I'm able to make a difference to even a few people around me, I think I should not stop myself, because definitely this few will again, this is a cascade model. It keeps on increasing. Okay. So if I'm sincere in my efforts, sooner or later, I do believe that there is going to be a long line of people supporting me in some or the other way, and I will get a response for this effort. This is something that I really strongly believe. And well, to say I can name multiple other people's who have real life, who have actually converted their values into their mission. But I would love to stop it over here with these two examples, because one is related to the present, one is related to the past. Now it's up to us how we can blend it into our lives.
Thank you so much, Gargi ma'am. That was really what wonderful examples you gave. Actually, I was getting goosebumps when you were telling me about, especially what both of them, even Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar and so it just makes it so clear and makes it so believable that right now we are struggling with many things in our education system. The unreasonable focus on academics, on high performance, on everyone doing the same kind of assessments. And I know for years we as teachers have been struggling that no, but this is what the system wants. This will give them a good job, and then we just feel so caught up in this and trapped. We feel, how do we get out of this paradigm? But when you think of examples like the ones you mentioned, and how what they saw needs to change, and it needs to change now, and they put the efforts behind that, and like something like women education is it's amazing to think how far we have come. I know there's a long way to go, but for efforts of people who had vision like that, this would not be possible. And it's very similar for us sitting at this juncture right now, wondering at all the difficulties we have in our current education system. It's not at all too big a situation for us. We can change it, and when we all come together with a common vision, we will change it. And this has been aptly demonstrated by both the examples you gave. I'm very moved by the simple anecdotes you told me about Dr. Majumdar sir, and I'm very honored that someone is representing him over here, someone of this stature. Thank you so much for accepting and being here with us. It's
Thank you.
really, really so good to have you. So, yes, so this was really very, very, it made everything so much more believable, and so encouraging to know that yes, what we envision right now can be a reality. It can happen. Our children can be leaders that we want them to be tomorrow, able to face current challenges and the challenges that they will be confronted with later on also. So with that now, I think I'll ask Gyan sir my next question. So, sir, it said that genius is the ability to hold one's vision steady until it manifests into reality. This has been said by Benjamin Franklin. Um, So we discussed in detail what needs to be changed. I think Bhavani sir went into great detail, mentioning what exactly we need to change in the current system. Gyan sir, I'd like to ask you now, how can we bring in these changes? How can we all contribute to bringing in these changes as educators, parents, as policymakers, all education stakeholders together? How can we actually bring in all these changes that we really want to?
Thank you, Anjali. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Am I? Thank you. First of all, let me begin by expressing my gratitude to all the people who have contributed to this wonderful workshop. Um, we have, they have shared their knowledge, they have shared their analysis, and they have also given great inspiration. They have been very inspirational, and I'm still trying to assimilate and absorb what I have learned from all these people directly from the field of education. Now, as you read out my background, I am not from the field of education as such, but I'm a product of the education system. And I've been a parent who has, you know, been through the second round of education for my children. Also, if I studied history. So my background, academic background is in history. So I will do what historians do best. Take a bird's eye view of everything that has been said and try to put it into a perspective from our point of view. We are here, I also represent the Heartfulness Education Trust. And one of the purposes of this workshop was to give us a direction, as people who are developing programs, our teams, teams who are implementing the programs. So I must say that this has been hugely inspirational. So I don't think I can bring very many fresh ideas after all these erudite presentations, and really coming from the depth of experience. So what I would try to do is to bring in, a kind of overview and summarization of this very lofty topic that we took of values today, civilization tomorrow. And just allow me to first give a brief overview, and then I'll go on to your question as to what really needs to change. From the historical perspective, if we see, civilization is it's a very lofty concept. It consists of communities, consists of societies. What constitutes a civilization is a huge spectrum of social formations, if you can call them that. We have communities, we have societies, we have nation states, we have, and then there are cultures, huge cultural. Now look at India itself. There are communities which, we have all the facets of civilization in our country. And there are very many other such civilizations which we have across the world. But what has happened, if you see historically, communities basically grow, they come together. As Gauri ma'am mentioned, she was referring to me. Thank you, Gauri ma'am, for putting that trust in my understanding. But I have learned a lot from what you said. You mentioned cooperation. And cooperation is something which is at the root of a civilization. That is the basis of a civilization. And cooperation begins at smaller levels. We have communities cooperating. We have then communities integrating into societies, and then further on into cultures and wider bigger social formations. Now, at the root is cooperation. And this cooperation is for multiple purposes, multiple reasons. And one of the things which defines why we cooperate, why we come together, also defines the civilization. Why are we there together? So there are multiple purposes. The primary thing is to make the communities and societies viable. So there's an economic basis to civilizations, and there is a very, very important reason why people also come together, and that is transmission of knowledge. And if that was not there, every community, every civilization would need to reinvent the wheel. And the fact that we don't do it, we don't need to do it, is because we are cooperating to transmit this information generation to generation, this cumulative information which is there, which transmits, let's say in the field of science, in every field. And that has made human beings so successful as a species, vis-a-vis so many other life forms. We are a dominant species because we are able to transmit knowledge from generation to generation. Well, it's done genetically in other species and other life forms, but it happens over millennia. We are able to transmit knowledge over a very short period of time. And that is one of the functions of an education system. And this education system is not just, what we understand as what it has become today. We associate it with mainly schools and colleges, or maybe other professional institutions. I mean, fundamentally, education is knowledge acquired by learning and instruction. That's one part. And there's the other part, which is the result of upbringing. And it is informal in education, And therefore, if you look at this definition of education, the stakeholders are multiple. I mean, the entire society is a stakeholder. Because if we need to transmit knowledge, it cannot be just one kind of knowledge, Societies and civilizations need huge areas of knowledge to be transmitted generation to generation. So it's not just knowledge about subjects, it's also knowledge about what we call life skills today. It's also what we call socio-emotional learning. So this has been happening. Now the challenge today that has come up is that we are becoming global. So there is far more interaction between different civilizational cultures. There is we are becoming, now we are moving from what we can call, our, let's say, restrictive citizenship to a global citizenship. And that has brought in a lot of challenges. There's so much free flow of information. Our youngsters and everybody, all age groups can access so much information which was never there before. And that has brought in this whole cross-cultural fertilization, you can say, of values. And sometimes we find this confusion as to what is the right way to go forward. I mean, we have so many different sets of values coming together. And there is this, we are actually at a very, very great moment in history. If you look at historically, such moments happen, in long periods of time, where there is this cross-cultural effervescence, and out of that results something new and something very, very great to take human societies forward. And I think we are facing such a moment today. And our education system, you see, is also, if you see not only now, historically, the education system is expected to respond to civilizational challenges. There are challenges which come every now and then, and the education system is at the forefront of finding answers to that and preparing the citizens to really adapt or how to take to that change. And at the core of every such adaptation is a review of the values. And I think this is what we are going through just now. We are in a situation where we need to review what stands good for us as humanity as a whole, because today the level of interdependence is much larger than what it was in the past. Today, something which happens in one part of the world impacts the entire humanity. And we are looking at this pandemic as one very big example, though it's a negative example. As of now, this is, in a way, it has had a, but you know, if you look at great periods of history, what looks negative at one point can turn out to be something very different few years later. You know, when we probably will look at this 50 years, 100 years from now, maybe we have a different perspective of this whole pandemic situation. So necessity very often brings us to a point of exploration. As they say, you know, in science, necessity is the mother of invention. This applies to many other areas of knowledge. We are forced to review, we are forced to think, we are forced to find answers sometimes. Sometimes this happens by force and sometimes this happens by volition. So by volition, there are these great individuals, so many, you know, ma'am, Gargi ma'am spoke about such individuals. Now, these are individuals which plant seeds of thought, which multiply into great forests of wisdom. And, you know, I was looking at one such thing where, you know, we are running at the Heartfulness, we are running a campaign for tree planting. And one of the quotations we have taken is from Rabindranath Tagore, who said, "The one who plants trees, knowing that he will never sit in their shade, has at least started to understand the meaning of life." Now, this is a great civilizational statement. I mean, somebody who can think of something like this is representing a civilization which has achieved a kind of refinement of thought process. And that is all what civilization is about. Constant refinement to address the challenges. So what needs to change? I think we have really summarized a whole lot in this, you know, nearly every facet of what needs to be done and where we stand as far as the education system is concerned has been very well brought out. Now, what needs to change can also be referenced from what our policy, which has just come out, is. You know, now they have defined the vision, and it's a national vision. I mean, I should say this has been a very well discussed and thought through policy. It's not just coming from the government; it's coming from a lot of educators. So the vision has been defined in a way or put together. And now it's the next step is, what do we need to do? So what we need to do is what many of us have suggested in this workshop, that we need to take that step forward, which, you know, enables us to introduce these changes. And as ma'am said, you know, that changes are not, I mean, there is always a resistance. The first stage is the resistance, you know, people who are settled into a system, you know, you are at a comfort level, the comfort level has to go. And we have to all spruce up, we have to all stand up and take note of what needs to be done. So the intent is very important. And I think this workshop, one of the objectives that I can think of is to really create that intent within our people who are working on the field, you know, as to what we really need. And as you know, Heartfulness has already been, what today is appearing as policy, we have already been doing for a long time. You know, some of our presenters brought that out very well, that, you know, it's been almost now 20, 30 years of productive work and thinking which has brought us to this level. So I think what we need to really do is to create that will to really take things forward. Very often we have always known what is right and wrong, but sometimes we, as a you know, as a humanity as a whole, or a group of people, communities, societies, cultures, whatever you may say, we don't have that will to take it forward sometimes. And there are these people who push that, you know, give that real, that tipping point by giving very, very valuable thoughts and inputs where, you know, we tip over and we say, yes, we need to do it. So I think right now we are at this stage where we really need to go forward with a very open mind and open heart and to take these things forward. Now, specifics I will not go into because, you know, they've all been spelled out. I mean, all I would say is what this workshop has brought out is that education is not a single person's or a school's or colleges or a university's job. It is the job of everyone who's a part of a civilization, because it's in the interest of everyone unless everyone participates in this process. I mean, if this workshop has brought out anything, it's this. So all those who are interested in the welfare of humanity are stakeholders in education. Yeah. So it's, you know, whether I come from the field of education or not, it does not matter. I am a stakeholder in the well-being of humanity, and you know, in the future of humanity, be it just for the sake of my children or everyone. That's another you know, maybe thing. But I am so long as I am a stakeholder in the well-being of humanity, I am a stakeholder in the education system. And I think it's very good that everybody is putting their minds together and hearts together to think of a way forward. And once this happens, I think we have a great future. The changes will come. There's no point in defining, because civilizations are dynamic. And if a civilization is dynamic, now what we are at is to define values which are universal and which are core to humanity. Earlier, they were defined by civilizations. So historically, we are now beginning to integrate as humanity. And we will be coming up. That's why, you know, you have UNESCO. We mentioned those values, 9 core values. We are mentioning core values. We are mentioning human values. We are mentioning we are using terms like universal values. So the next phase of our civilization as a humanity together would be to discover these universal values and to work our education systems, our various other systems, you know, political, social, all of these systems, and align ourselves with those. And education, of course, is going to play the most critical role in this alignment of the entire humanity towards what we realize as our core or universal human values. Thank you. I think I've taken long, but I thought I must express my, you know, very deep gratitude to everybody who's helped me arrive at this understanding. Actually, what I was talking is what I have picked up from what all you all said. So thank you very much, and my deep gratitude to everyone.
Thank you, Gyan sir. I think there were some real pearls of wisdom in what you said. Possibly everyone coming together, and it got distilled in whatever you said. And I think that's the essence of what you're saying, that everyone coming together, and that's the root of civilization. And now the next step is again everyone coming together with a common purpose, with a common intent. And I think what you said is that the education system is what prepares us for civilizational changes. That was a really very profound statement. What a responsibility on the education system there lies then. And also that all those who are interested in the welfare of humanity are stakeholders in education. So that includes pretty much everybody. So everyone coming together, making it more a universal cause, a universal purpose, is what will create that shift, is what will create that tipping point in manifesting the real changes. That was really profound. Thank you so much, Gyan sir. So this has been a discussion of altogether another level, I think, right? I feel strongly that whatever we have detailed here today will surely find its way to manifestation, because now it's become our common shared purpose. And as you mentioned, that quote by Dr. Rabindranath Tagore, that the one who plants a tree knowing that he may never sit in its shade, the same way that we may not be there to witness the changes that we're talking about right now, but it will set the wheels into motion for sure, and that will ensure its fulfillment. So thank you for such wise counsel, for such deep insights, and such clear vision of what we want our future to be. It fills us all with new energy to go about our jobs, whether we're educators, parents, or simply someone who's interested in the welfare of humanity, and thereby a stakeholder in education. So, dear audience, I'd like to open the floor to you now. If you would like to ask our esteemed panelists, you're very fortunate to have so many great minds here today. Do avail of the opportunity to ask them whatever you want. So I request you to, Probably you have been posting your questions in the Q&A. Yes, we do have some questions here. There is one by Ms. Usha Bhatia. The teacher's role has always been well defined, though more seriously now only on implementation level. How are we going to work on the parenting part, especially in the Indian context, which to me is the most difficult job? Indian parents are too protective of their children in reference to risk taking, accepting failures, and regarding a small job or a big job, and so on and so forth. So, who would like to take this question? Maybe we as a culture, probably that's what Ms. Usha is talking about. Uh, don't encourage our children to take risks. Who would like to take that question?
Well, I think one of the ways she's brought up a very important issue, and it's not an issue, it's going to be a challenge. Because we need to have a mindset change among the parents as well. So a lot of PTAs and PTMs and talking to parents and not giving up. It's not going to happen overnight, but sooner or later they will also realize, like Gyan sir said, we are all stakeholders. So eventually even the parents will realize what kind of a future lies. And children, the younger generation is also changing now. They are far more assertive about what they want, and I think they will be the ones who will actually drive the change in the parents. It is a challenge, but it has to be faced, and the best way of facing it is through dialogue. You have to go and giving instances over a period of time. The change will happen. Parents will also realize, because the world is changing, and I think this pandemic has also jolted parents at the moment. It has jolted. They may not have changed their point of view, but it has made them aware that there are other points of view. At least now they realize there's something called online teaching. They realize that there is something called blended learning. So step by step. So I would tell the person who asked the question, don't give up. It is a challenge, but it can be overcome.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Gauri ma'am. There's another question by Pushpa ma'am, and she is talking about reward system and whether it's really suitable. So they're saying that it's said that a person needs to compete with his own abilities in order to develop. Then why are schools encouraging the reward system for any project? Are we as elders, teachers, parents not encouraging competitiveness to be successful and not as a tool for development? Uh, does anyone have a answer for that about um, giving awards or rewards for being better than everyone else rather than competing with themselves?
I'll attempt something.
Okay.
Though again, I'm not at all qualified to do that. But as I said, I've observed the process. And see, we have to have some methodology to promote excellence. Now, this intention, the intention of this award system was to promote excellence. And at one point of time, I think this was what our understanding was. Our understanding was let people compete, because you see, this is a very age old. If you go back, this started in very ancient civilizations, the Greeks, look at the Olympics. Now, the whole spirit of Olympics was that let people compete to become better. And the spirit was that we are competing to become better and excel, not really competing with each other to, like, today sometimes we have the cutthroat competitions, which are, which leave a very sour, with not a sour, but bitter taste sometimes, people so bitterly contest even in sports. Now, this is a kind of, you see, this is how I think changes happen in civilizations. That we started by one concept, it worked well for some time. Now we are beginning to see the contradictory effects, or something which is not working as well. And that's when we start to think, can there be some other motivating factors? Can there be something else that we can bring in to create the same results, but through a different medium? So, one of the things which we offer in Heartfulness our school and these curriculums is to make them understand that it is far better to compete with your own self than with everybody. I mean, there's no harm in competing with everybody. Somebody now, let's take our essay event. Now we have to have some people who will win an award, but we tell them that the real award is in participation. If we can truly make the participants understand that the fact that you have chosen to participate in a process is itself a reward, we must not only just say it, but we must truly appreciate, and not just appreciate those who have won. So that, that whole attitudinal shift has to come, but that starts with the change in our understanding. I think that is already beginning to happen. We are looking at whether we should use this methodology or now the fact that somebody's asked this question. Why has this question come? I think we are already questioning whether this is the right approach or not. So I think we will find the answers, and we may find something which, like, one of our presenters said, I think it was the morning session, where they said that can something replace these games, the interest of the children in games. And the panelists said that if we can find something more joyful, they will leave the games and then attend the class, because the class is even more joyful. So we have to find something which motivates children even more. And as people who are now, I think this is the next, the question itself shows that we are beginning to think and look for alternatives.
Yeah.
I would like to add something over here, if I may.
Please, ma'am, please.
Yeah. No, the purpose of giving rewards or awards, if you go to the laws of learning and to the educational psychology aspect, it was more for reinforcement rather than competition. It is we who translated it into competition. But if you look at the other side of the coin, the best part, I've seen the classrooms very closely. And looking at the classrooms, though we may term it as a competition, children consider it as a cooperation. They do not take it as a competition. So ultimately, the purpose of reinforcement is being sorted out. See, we are all products of the cognitive system of education. In fact, our assessments are also in the light of cognitivism. So we all think in terms of competition. But if you perceive the other side of the coin, it's not the same. So, well, to answer this question, just to make it more specific, rewards were meant to reinforce the positive behavior, not in terms of competition. We just misinterpreted it. And that's how it went on and on and on.
Thank you, ma'am. That was a wonderful perspective as an educationist. I was attempting it as a lay person. So thank you so much.
Just sharing my view.
We got diverted from the real
exactly
purpose.
This combination of the lay and the educationists need to come together.
No, not at all, sir. Not at all.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So yes, somewhere along the way, it got lost, the real purpose of the giving the reward. And it is important to reinforce a good behavior. Why not? So someone has actually sent another question, which is very much along these lines, that how can we educate small children without pressurizing them? Because they have examinations, the parents tend to pressurize the children. So what can be done about this? I think probably her question is about the appropriateness of assessing or examining young children because it puts pressure on them. Possibly that's what she's trying to say. What can be done?
I don't believe in examinations for very young children in the primary, pre-primary years. I think assessment has to be done individually on different aspects of their growth. It has to be formative assessment in those days. I don't think they're looking at summative assessment. Many schools make children do exams, and I think that is very wrong. Children learn at their own pace. They learn from their surroundings, and the whole assessment pattern should change. Looking at their, how have they developed, how their cognitive ability, their motor skills are developing. What is it that they are looking at? What is their help them to develop their curiosity, help them to explore and find. The trouble with us nowadays is we ask the questions. We don't allow the children to ask the questions. think we have to change that role. I remember an assessment once about a child saying, color systems are very badly understood. Now, I found it a very strange comment and went to inquire. And the reason was the child had painted the leaves of a plant in some kind of a purplish color. So I asked the teacher, why have you written this remark? She said, ma'am, but the leaves are green. I said, yeah, but the child perceives it as purple. So what is wrong in that? That's his imagination. And we should not curb that imagination. That is how innovation comes. That is how curiosity develops. So we have to change our entire approach. And I think an NEP specifies that now.
Yes.
I agree with the person who asked the question. We should not have summative assessments for primary school children. They should be formative, based more on their skills of learning and where they need help. That's what you are doing. The assessment is helping us to see how do we best help the child. We are not assessing to see how bad the child is.
Correct, correct. And this can be, especially for younger children, not assessing them, it can be a school level decision. I think many schools choose to not examine the younger children and have a formative assessment, as Gauri ma'am is saying. And I do think, I think I agree with you that it should be the way forward. Now, someone else has put a very interesting question regarding just that there should be no rewards or awards for children. There should even be no best teacher award because everyone is trying their best. So,
Actually, in many ways, I agree with that in some ways because I never, in the school that in Sanskriti, I never instituted a best teacher award because it's not a question of assessing because there are some teachers who are better than others, undoubtedly. But the thing is, it creates so much of heartburn and so much of distress in teachers that it's not worth going down that path. you know but at the national level it does make a difference because there are teachers in rural areas whom nobody even knows about. Now if they are picked up and given an award at the national level, I think that is something really positive. Schools shouldn't do it at individual levels, but the national level award for teachers from remote areas is a wonderful idea. Others may
yes,
disagree, but this is my thought.
right, right. There is one more question here by Ms. Ruma Singh. I have started half an hour class for communication development, but parents started complaining and said to focus only on the syllabus, as they said we are going to doing part-time time pass activities. So please request you to suggest how to deal with this situation. Possibly, I think what she means is that they thought that this was not a worthwhile class of teaching communication skills, and we should be focusing on the syllabus.
Yeah, I think Anjali, the saddest part in all of this is that the classroom environment or what the school provides the children does not include the parent as an observer or an onlooker every day. And now that the online education has opened the classroom for parents as well. So parents, without understanding the context of why a particular exercise may be taken up with the child, start complaining about it. We do receive complaints saying that why is this done? Why is this teacher doing this? So the grandfather prompts the child that this is not the answer. So there are multiple things that happen because you have been compelled to choose an environment which also accommodates the parent inside the classroom. So and now going to the parent saying that why did you choose to look at communication? So Gauriji started off interestingly at the top of this session that say what are the skills that are needed for this constantly changing world. This constantly changing world is looking at skills that are aligned to change readiness. So if something that is going to go a long way is how well I'm going to say communicate with others or make my ideas known to others, and therefore it is significantly important that this gateway of a very important skill continues to be open. I would tell the parent, dear parent, please understand, say communication is going to rule in terms of what your child does, or it's not necessary, it's verbal communication, could also be non-verbal communication. But I'm saying communication is significantly important, and this is what the teacher should do. So ask the parent to be away from classrooms. So.
Okay. So I think we'll take one last question. One is here that how can we modify our children's behavior without punishments? Is it possible to do this?
So I would again ask this teacher to define, this person to define what punishment is. So I would say for a particular action, there has to be a consequence, and that consequence need to be outlined. So if we see if this consequence is driven to move the child to better understanding of self, move the child to progress, I think the consequence is well in place. So, however, see how I choose to exercise it, forms the baseline for punishment. See, I don't advocate punishment. I strongly advocate consequence for particular actions, and that needs to be explained to all, saying that if there is something happening, let's say a child bullies another child, I would say that this child reverses the role play and becomes a victim. So there definitely needs to be a consequence, because see, for every action there is a consequence. See, as much as you're talking about not being able to wish away rewards, so you can't wish away consequences. So consequences cannot be mistaken for punishments. So say I can't be rude, I can't be aggressively punitive in terms of taking a stance, but however, I can be firm to tell the child, look, for this particular action, I'm sorry, child, so this is the consequence, and this consequence needs to move towards the path of developing the child and making a rational change in the child towards being a better human being. And that's all of us wanted at the start, so be better human beings. And if the teacher uses it, that's lovely.
Right. So the concept that every action will have a consequence needs to be clarified, or child needs to be clear about that, and then that will automatically modify the behavior. So I think we have come possibly to the end of this session, not end of our discussion, not end of the session, because still the cherry on the top we have yet to experience, which is a session of meditation. So thank you, dear audience members, for such amazing questions. They were very pertinent, and they actually triggered such wonderful discussion, which was left out as part of our panel. So it really added value. Thank you so much, dear audience members. And those questions were worthy of the esteemed panelists that we have here today. So as this is our concluding session, and we've had such intense, amazing 3 days, and I have this feeling like we all have collectively been elevated to another level of understanding. And I feel that through these collective conversations, that we have actually developed a blueprint for what the future of education will be like, what the needs of our students will be like. And then what happens is, through a practice such as meditation, we can actually reinforce its manifestation into reality. So why not practice it right away? I request Manisha Upadhyay, who's a Heartfulness meditation trainer, to please take us through a session of Heartfulness meditation, and specifically the topic of connecting with the inner self, so we can all leave with a feeling of immense inner peace and connectedness. Manisha?
Yeah. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, Manisha.
Yeah. Thank you, Anjali.
So, as Anjali said, that we are now towards the end of the 3-day conference, and nothing better than having a meditation session right now. So. Definitely, these 3-day conference, we are sure that this must have in some way given a direction to the educators, parents, and all the stakeholders, as mentioned here, to shape the future generation into a more sensitive, compassionate, joyous, creative individuals. Now, in this session, we'll bring the focus to our own selves. In the morning, as Brother Malela rightly pointed out, that charity begins at home. And also in yesterday's session, there was a discussion regarding ACL and its importance. So, with a great responsibility on our shoulders, and in order to become the role model um, for the coming generation and walk the talk, there is no better way than to become self aware by connecting to our heart through meditation. During the previous 2 days, we have shared 3 techniques with you all. We have done relaxation, meditation, as well as cleaning. So now today, I'll share this 4th technique of prayerful connection, which will then be followed by meditation. What is prayerful connection, in fact? Prayerful connection is a technique which requires our little time at night before we sleep and can easily be integrated in our routine. This technique is very effective in helping us create the inner conditions that will nurture and strengthen the inner connection with our heart, which we establish during meditation. Just like everything, it is very easy to receive something, but to maintain it, to let it grow, requires our attention. In meditation, too, the practice must lead to a meditative state, which is very, very important. So, how to make this possible? That the high level of meditative consciousness that we receive after meditation, how can this consciousness remain with us for the longest duration of time? This is where the prayerful connection helps. With morning meditation, evening cleaning, and bedtime prayerful connection, we complete a 24-hour cycle of our inner connection. And through this repetitive practice, we expand our capacity to be attuned to our heart at all the time. So, this is so important that the cycle gets completed, and this gets done by the last technique that we are going to do. Not the last technique, this is one of the 4th core techniques that we are going to share now. This practice at bedtime, just before sleep, utilizes the idle nighttime to our benefit, helping to improve our consciousness so that our sleep becomes yoga nidra. We have heard of that, that sleep is not that just the sleep which physically rejuvenates, but it turns into a yoga nidra. That is, we remain united with our inner self even during sleep. So, what do we practice at bedtime? What is the technique? For this experience of the prayerful connection, I request all to gently, close your eyes and follow my instruction. And also follow the prayer which I will read to you all. So, are you all ready for the experience?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So, keeping your eyes closed, just sit comfortably, your eyes closed, and follow my instructions. Now, very gently scan through your day's activities to see where you went wrong, where you need to improve, and then gently resolve very prayerfully not to repeat them. And now be grateful to all that has happened through the day. Gratitude helps us to open our heart. Now, follow the 4-line prayer which I will read to you all. The prayer goes like this. O Master, thou art the real goal of human life. We are yet but slaves of wishes, putting bar to our advancement. Thou art the only God and power to bring us up to that stage. At home, when we do this meditation, we meditate on the meaning of this prayer and gently go off to sleep. As we go off to sleep, this prayerful connection continues in our subconscious mind, making easier for us to meditate the next morning. Thus, using the unproductive hours of our sleep to our benefit. Now, keeping your eyes closed, we will gently move into meditation. Very gently bring your attention to your heart. Take a supposition that divine light already present within your heart is attracting you within. Feel absorbed in this light and continue to meditate till you hear further instruction from my side. That's all. Now, very gently, you may open your eyes. Just make a mental note of how you felt while meditating. Now gently feel the awareness outside. And hand over the mic to Anjali sister. Thank you all.
Thank you, Manisha, for that beautiful experience. That was
Thank you.
the cherry on the top, and I'm sure we're all feeling so relaxed. This has been a very wonderful 3 days, and it has been possible by tireless efforts of so many volunteers. So I just like to mention their names. There's nothing about awarding or rewarding, but maybe positively reinforcing what was good. Yes. So our organizing team includes Mr. Gyaneshwar Sareen, Bharat Madhavan, KG Matapurkar, Nirmala Sundaram, Alka Vaidya, Shamala Krishnan, Dr. Ranjani Iyer, Manisha Upadhyay, Pooja Susvirkar, Srilata Sheshadri, Shubham Bhaikar, and the moderators for these 3 days have been Lakshmi Wadekar, Yamini Murthy, Apala Pandey, Vikita Swarup, and Anjali Papad. So a big thank you to the whole team, and hope we are able to do this again and again. And with that, I think brings us to the end, I suppose. So, my dear honorable guests, members of the audience, thank you so much for being with us throughout these 3 days and making this conference so memorable. Let's continue our collaboration for the benefit of our students who are our future. Let's meet again and again this way. Till next time, I take your leave while wishing you a very good evening ahead. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks to all.